get started here. Any injuries, anything I should know about? Good. Okay, if anything comes up, definitely feel free to let me know. Hello, Andrea. Nice to see you. We're going to go through warm-up, a few conditioning things, including our handstand holds, and then start on our deadlifts. We're actually going to start, before we get into the deadlifts with the bands, we are going to go over some pop-out exercises. That being said, I will not be demoing pop-outs. I actually can't remember the last time I did a pop-out. Some of you probably have heard me say before that I have a joint disorder that causes my elbows to dislocate, so pop-outs are not my friend. I can send you videos of them. I used to love them, like 10, 12 in a row, whatever. But it's one of those now where I'm like, the thought of doing them actually gives me anxiety because sometimes my elbows like come out. It's not a nice feeling. A lot of my body parts actually come out and I have to put them back in. Some are more easy to put back in than others. So yeah, not to gross you all out, but and just so you know, that is not a side effect of doing pop-outs. That does not happen to the normal person. So my elbow's injury is not from doing pop-outs. It's because of a genetic disorder. So don't worry, you're all good, unless you have Ehlers-Danlos, you're totally good. Okay, so let's go ahead and start in on some warm-up. If you have your own warm-up that you're doing, definitely feel free to do that, or jump on in. Let's go ahead and just start with some shoulder rolls. Allie coming in. Just big circles. Oh, I turned the heater on because it felt chilly in here, and probably within like 2 minutes I'm going to be cooking, and I'm going to want to turn it off. Switch direction with those shoulders. And then big circles with the arms. Switching direction. Good. And then I want you to take it to plie, legs turned out as much as you can. Try to tuck your pelvis and engage your glutes. I'm not worried about it being your widest turned out here, but try not to lean forward. And it's not about how deep you go into it. So it's not necessarily I want you to get down to a 90. I want you to feel that external rotation and just little circles with the arms as you plie. And sure enough, it's too hot now. Hang on, keep going. I'm going to turn my heater off now because, I have a very narrow temperature margin. Whew. I basically think about moving and suddenly I'm too warm. Switch direction with your arms if you haven't already, just circling the other direction. Okay, so you should feel your glutes, your butt working just like when you're in an Iron X. Trying to make that spready to the gods as big as possible. Good, and then go ahead and bring it out. Let's go and take it to a side bend. Feet right at the base of the pole, fingers all going the same direction. Big breath in as you exhale, lean it to the side. And then working your way up when you're ready. Same thing with the other side. Big breath in as you exhale, sinking it to the side. Bringing it in. When you're ready, turn to face the pole, feet at the base of the pole. Big breath in as you exhale, dropping your hips back. Let your shoulder blades slide up your back. You should feel a little traction, a little gentle stretch right at the base of your scapulas or your shoulder blades. You can kind of crunch your butt to one side, crunch your butt to the other, a couple times, and then roll it up nice and slow when you're ready. Shoulder warm-up exercises, so butt to the pole, mid-back to the pole. It's okay if there's a little sky right through here, but make sure this mid-back is touching. Elbows completely straight. Reach the arms up towards the sky as high as you can, little pulses. Okay, so just about 10 to 15. Don't let those elbows bend. Don't let this mid-back come off the pole. Good, and then bring it out when you're done. Kind of shake it out so you can feel those fingers again. Okay, go ahead and face the pole. Feet about a foot away from the pole, looking up towards the ceiling. Elbows straight. Big breath in as you exhale, sink your chest to the pole, and then if you can, slide it down a little bit without your chest or your sternum coming off the pole. Butt should be back over your ankles. And kind of like just gently side to side. Should be a like 50 to 75% max stretch on your shoulders. And then bringing it out whenever you're ready. Butt crack to the pole, interlace your fingers with a slight bend in your elbows. Keep your butt on the pole, big breath in as you exhale, press your armpits away. And this one, do about 5 pulses. Kind of inhale, squeeze those elbows together. Exhale, try to push your armpits away, trying to straighten your arms. Push, 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 push. And then you can kind of relax a little bit. If you can slide the hands down a little bit, which will make it more intense depending how your shoulders feel. Exhale, push it away, trying to straighten those arms. Okay, just kind of 5 gentle pulses into it. And if you feel anything in your low back, which you should not, but if you do, think about trying to slightly tuck your pelvis so it keeps it more up in the upper back and the shoulders. Good, and when you're done, go ahead and bring it out. Let's go ahead and warm up those wrists for those shoulder strengthener handstand exercises. Okay, individual wrist rolls, both directions. Okay, and then fingers together, push the pad, the callus part of your hand together, fingers together, and then the heel of your palms. Start up at your nose, sink down only as far as you can without the heels coming off. Just about 3 to 5 of those. And then if those feel okay, then you're gonna rotate and down as far as you can. Okay, just kind of easing those wrists. And it shouldn't be anything like super intense on the wrists. It should be just more of like letting your wrists know what you're about to ask them to do. Okay, and then rolling those out. Take it down to the floor. Initially, we're gonna go backs of the hands to the floor. Okay, so palms are facing up. Put your hands right at your knees. Elbows nice and straight. And you're just gonna bend. On the inhale, exhale, press up and try to go all the way to a locked out elbow. Okay, so just do 5 of those nice and slow. There's, once again, it should be gentle on your wrists. If it feels like it's a lot of tension on your wrist, don't try to push your whole back of your hand down. This should be a gentle warm up, but if you have sensitive wrists, listen to them. Don't try and force them into it. Because ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, and then when you're done with those, just kind of gently roll them out, and then you're gonna switch to palms down. So with this one, the closer your hands are to your knees, the less intense it's gonna be. Your goal is eventually to start walking your hands out farther and farther and farther. Elbows are locked out on this one, and from here you're gonna go finger push-ups. So keep the callus part of your hand on the ground. You're gonna push up on your fingers as much as you can, and back down. And if it feels intense, you can make it less intense by having your hands closer to your knees, and or you can alternate one hand at a time. Okay, but really take a push with your fingers to go up. Okay, this will be good for your grip strength on the pole and your handsprings, also for your handstands. And then go ahead and just work your way out of those. Okay, we're going to take it to handstand holds. Okay, so handstand holds, as usual, I think all of you are familiar with this. If you do have sensitive wrists, parallettes are a good option. If not, you can go to an elbow stand or a forearm stand. If you need me to give you a modification more than just that little snippet, definitely let me know. Okay, you have 3 options. You can kick up against the wall with your back to the wall. You can go belly button to the wall if you're comfortable with that. Second option is the L. Put the hands a few feet away from the wall. Walk your feet up. Try to get your butt as far over your head as you can. Third option is legs on the pole, kind of like a crucifix. Your goal is to have your butt over your arms as much as possible. Okay, arms, try to have them shoulder width apart. We tend to put them a little wide for most of us. So shoulder width apart. Elbows are going to be gently hyperextended. Okay, once we get to handsprings, I'm going to tell you don't hyperextend them. And then the goal, the entire minute, our goal is a minute, okay, is to push out of your shoulders the whole time. You'll find yourself kind of sinking down. You want to push, which is the same as we do in our handspring on that hold. Okay, so find your position, whichever handstand hold that you want to have. On your marks, get set, and go. And I will let you know when we hit our halfway mark as well. Good, so really focus on engaging those triceps, that muscle through the back of the arm, so that the arms are completely straight, like so there can be a slight hyperextension through the elbow. Think of getting tall, pushing with your arms as much as you can, as if you're trying to push. If you're in a straight handstand, you're thinking of trying to push your toes to the ceiling. If you're in a tuck, you want to think of pushing your butt crack to the ceiling. Nice, Andrea, that looks really good. Nice, Jen. Yeah, it's not about balance. Okay, we're halfway, you're doing awesome. Keep pushing the floor away. As much as we think we're pushing out of our shoulders, over time we start to sink a little. SB, push, push, more, more, more. Yes, see, you got taller. I saw that. Nicely done. Good, last 10 seconds. Finish strong, push the floor away for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Nicely done. Okay, we're going to do 2 leg exercises to prep. We're going to do a set of the adductor openers that we've worked on before that'll help with our iron X, and we're going to do a set of psoas slides before we go to our second handstand set. So we're going to start with the psoas slides. Grab your pole towel, okay? For this one, if you need something to kind of give you a proprioceptive orientation, you can use your pole, okay? So for this one, if you're using your pole, and like so you don't have to have your back against something, you can use your pole, scoot back all the way so you feel your butt and your back against the pole, and then shimmy forward just about an inch so you're not touching it, okay? So the psoas slide, you're gonna put the towel between your knees, you're gonna squeeze the towel, or whatever you're holding on to, cell phone, quarter, whatever, piece of paper, you're squeezing it in, which helps engage our pelvic floor and find that psoas. Hands can go anywhere you want, sit up nice and tall so you're not touching the pole or the wall behind you. Slide your legs in as close as you can. We're focusing on compression. Think about pulling your belly button to your spine. When you get to that closest point, if you want, you can grab a hold of your ankles and smush your legs in a little bit more. Okay? Release. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then slowly controlling it back out. Okay? So you're going to do 5 of those. Go at your own pace. Okay, and if you start to feel a cramping in your hip flexors, your hip flexors don't, like the goal is to have this be more of your psoas, which is more of a deep muscle versus your hip flexors. If your hip flexors don't want to shut up, if they keep trying to steal the show and lead the dance, don't go in quite so far. Okay, because when we get to our in range of motion, that's usually where we're our weakest. So if you're trying to get your psoas to work, and as you get to the in range where your psoas is like, but I've never done this before, your hip flexors are going to want to take over. Okay, so like I said, if you feel like your hip flexors are just like yelling at you and cramping like crazy, don't pull in quite as deep. Okay, so 5, go at your own pace. Yeah, and a couple of like cues that help for finding the psoas, and everyone's a little bit different. If you have any other suggestions for cues, I would love to hear those. Think about pulling your belly button to your spine, like literally if someone like poked you in the belly button, like the Pillsbury Doughboy, which is different than sucking your belly in. The other one that for me helps is I picture if there was a string going from my pubic bone to my belly button and I shorten that. So there is like a slight pelvic tilt that goes with that as well. When you're done with those 5, don't rush if you're still working on those. We're going to take it to our backs and you're going to do a set of the abduction for our necks. So you're going to take legs up, you're going to open as wide as you can, and depending on how wide your straddle is, you can rest a foot on the wall if you want to. Okay? You're going to put hand on one leg, tip that leg all the way over so it's touching the ground, and you're going to do little pulses with the other leg. Okay? So yes, you're going to feel a stretch of your adductors, your inner thighs, but what we're really focusing on is that engagement of that glute, that outer leg. Okay? So 10 to 15, 15 to 20 little pulses, then switch sides, 15 to 20. If your straddle is about here at a 90, sometimes it's hard because we're fighting gravity. You can scoot closer to a wall and fix this leg to the wall, and sometimes that helps because then we have gravity helping us a little bit, okay? So it's not about where this leg is, whether it's touching the ground, it's about it being fixed in place as you're doing these. Okay, so just one set on each side, 15 to 20 pulses, and then switch it to the other side. Okay? And these, you should feel your booty burning. Also, on these, depending on your hamstring flexibility, especially because we didn't go through any hamstring stretches, on these, like if you have tight hamstrings that just in this L position, they feel tight, feel free to put your butt up against the wall. Oops, sorry, Loki, I just totally kicked my puppy. So like I said, if you have tight hammies, you can go to the wall and scoot a little bit away and rest your legs on the wall. That way you don't have to work so hard to keep your leg up. And then just use the wall as kind of a little guide to do your pulses there. Okay, because if you have tighter hamstrings, you're going to feel like you're getting a crazy ab workout, which is awesome, except for we're trying to focus on our glutes. Okay, so one set on each side, 15 to 20. Then if you need to kind of keep moving those wrists around, warm them up, because then we're going to go to a second set on the handstand holds. Nicely done. All right, when you're done with your straddles, find your handstand position for second round. Okay, so we're going to prep for a second round. Goal is to hold it for a minute. Okay, but challenge yourself. Okay, so find your position. Oops, let me stop my stopwatch. When you're ready, on your marks, get set and go. Okay, remember, try to gently lock out those elbows. They're going to be slightly hyperextended. Push out of your shoulders. Think of pushing the floor away like you're trying to get tall. Lengthening out of those shoulders, pushing your butt or your toes to the ceiling, depending on which handstand position you're in. Jessica, push your armpits a little more towards the pole, and actually you can slide your legs up the pole a little bit more if you want to, if it feels more comfortable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the legs can be higher. Yes, there you go. Yes, beautiful. That's perfect. Yeah, because now your hips are nice and stacked over your wrists. That looks great, Jessica. All right, you're more than halfway there. Push out of those shoulders. Stay strong. 15 seconds. Nicely done. Push out the shoulders, taller, taller, taller for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bringing it down. Nicely done. Okay, one more set. So as slides, adductors, little squeezes, each side. This is basically giving your arms a break because you all know you're going to be using your arms for the next, 45 minutes plus. Okay, so put a pull towel between your knees, 5 slides coming in to the adductors, 15 to 20 pulses on one side, switch the other side, 15 to 20 on the other side. And think about when you're doing those little abduction exercises, little pulses in the straddle, you can even close your eyes and picture yourself in your iron X and think, this is the muscle I'm going to use. I'm going to squeeze my booty so I have this glorious iron X. Ooh, Allie, I love your lights. Those are so cool. Look so pretty. Okay, so straddle pulses when you're done with the psoas slides. Like I said, 15 to 20 one side, switch, 15 to 20 on the other. When you're done with those, we'll take it up to the pole and we'll move on to our float prep. Okay, so when we get to the pole, I'm not rushing, I'm just telling you what's yet to come as you're doing your butt exercises. We're going to go through the prep for the float. Just the rotation of it first with the feet on the ground. Doesn't matter if you're able to do a float, still working towards a float. We still always start by like reminding our brain, those are the muscles that we want on board. And then from there, after doing a few of those, it's a combination of like a warm up for your brain and your body. Then taking it to, okay, trying to engage that a little bit more to get it towards the float. For some of you, you are at the float. After going through our floats both sides, then we're going to go through the check-in of handspring wherever it's at. Those of you that have your handspring, Aisha, check in with it. Kick up, drop down, however you get into it. And notice I also said Aisha, I mean elbow Aisha, just to clarify on that. So if you do have an elbow Aisha, definitely throw that in there too. Or if you're working towards your handspring, the apprentice to butterfly, which I think everyone here has gone through before, but if I need to break it down for anyone, definitely let me know and I will do that. And then after we've gone through all the handsprings, we're going to talk about some dynamic exercises that are going to work towards those poppy things, such as pop outs, which is the elbow Aisha to a cup grip, pop ins, cup to an elbow, or Jen brought up a kamikaze, which goes from a flag and swings up and catches in a cup grip. Which eventually, like kamikaze is very similar to doing a fonji. The difference is a fonji switches from that flag to a shoulder mount versus a kamikaze goes from a flag to a cup. And then there's also ones where you can go from a cup and catch to a side flag, and then it's a whole new world out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start when you're ready. If you're still finishing stuff up, feel free to do so. Take your time. Starting with our float prep. So feet, at least the inside leg is going to stay on the ground with this one the entire time. Okay, and I think all of you have been through this before, but if I go over anything too fast or anyone needs me to clarify or break it down more, definitely please feel free to ask. Like I said, I want to make sure, like, if you've all heard it before, I don't want to keep, like, rubbing it in as in, like, saying it over and over. If you're like, yeah, we know, just let us get to it. But I don't want any of you to feel like you missed out on any information either. Okay, so you can go with either a cup grip, thumb down, or a twisted grip. You're going to start facing the pole. I like being on my tippy toes, but that's personal preference. If you are flat-footed, make sure you're reaching up high. You don't want to be like down here, okay? So I want to be up here, bottom arm, I'm keeping my elbows straight but not locked out, okay? If you have super hyperextended elbows, that becomes that much more of a challenge sometimes to keep the elbows from locking, okay? So you're going to start looking at the pole. The outside foot starts to rotate. It turns your hips. Your chest starts to turn. Your eyes look up to the ceiling. Push, push, push away with that bottom shoulder, and then slowly control and collapse back in. And you're just going to do about 3 of those on each side. Like I said, it can be in a cup, it can be a twisted, you can do a set with each, whichever you want, both sides. Okay, so you're just basically think of your body going through the checklist of like, okay, legs, hips, chest, eyes, and then slowly melting back to the pole, just to have that repetition of it. Okay, spacing with your arms. If you're going with a cup grip, your top arm can be almost completely straight, but with a micro bend, or it can be bent as much as a 90 degree. Just keep in mind, if you bend it as much to a 90, you have to keep that bicep engagement the whole time. So if you start with that bent arm, it has to stay with a bent arm even when you go out. It can't fully extend because then you'll end up with your arms too close together. Okay, so about 3 to 5 rotations on each side. Then from there, working it towards the float. If you have a float, awesome. Always remember too, you want to take everything one step at a time. If the first step, like if you just do these rotations and your shoulders are like, so you know that workout you did the other day? I'm still really sore, I'm not sure I want to do this. Don't rush it, okay? So take your time. Jessica, push your inside shoulder down even more. Think of like trying to create as much distance between the shoulder and your ear. And then actually if you move your inside leg even a little farther away from the pole. Walk your inside leg out. Yes, there, yeah, exactly. Now you can get more distance with that bottom shoulder. Beautiful. Yep, that's it. Gorgeous. Okay, so take your time on these. Like I said, after you've done a few rotations, now you're going to hang out in the rotation, and I want you to think of basically as if you're doing little shrugs with that top arm with your lat, trying to pull it to that float. So you'll rotate out, pull. If it lifts, great. If it just softens the load on that inside leg, great. Remember, there's no lift coming from your hip flexors. The lift is coming from your upper torso, okay? So this also can be in cup, twisted. If you're comfortable with both of them, I would definitely encourage you to do them on both sides. Just do 2 to 3. And these can be on static or spin, totally up to you. If you want to work these on spin or static, that is whichever you prefer. Personally, I like doing them on both. Nice, Jen. That looks really good. Yes, Andrea, I like the placement of your feet right at the outside of the pole. SB, a little farther apart with your arms, or like I would say actually slide your bottom arm down a little bit so you have a little more space for that inside shoulder. Yep. Yes. Yep. I know it feels weird sometimes to be, and we're like, I don't know about this. Diana, I would say same thing. Just watch the distance on your arms. The float, like your float is strong, but eventually going to the deadlift, when you're in the cup grip, if your arms are that close together, the top arm will have to stay bent. So either A, keep that top arm bent, or you're going to want to move your hands a little bit farther apart. Because the farther away basically your head is from the pole, the harder it's going to be to deadlift in the long run. Okay, so after you've done a few of these on each side, take your time, no rush. Like I said, sometimes our body needs a little bit more warm up on one side. Every day is a little bit different, you know, it's an adventure. When you're ready, go ahead and take inventory of all your handsprings that you have, okay? So that might be an apprentice to the butterfly entrance that we've been working on. It might be a drop down to a crucifix. If you have a kick up, if you have a deadlift, whatever it is, basically check in with all the things. Be like, okay, I did this yesterday, let's see how it is today. Okay, true grip, twisted grip, cup grip, elbow grip, whichever ones you have, just say hello to them. See how they're feeling today. Nice, Allie. That looks really good. Yes. Yeah, and that's perfect distance of your arms, Allie, with your arm bent like that. That looks really good. You can see that slide, Mallory. Way to write it out. You're like, I'm just going to hold as I just... I think that's a true sign of being comfortable in a move where you're like, yeah, I'm sliding. Nice, Jen. Jen, ear to arm even more. Relax your neck. Sometimes we don't realize like how much tension we're holding. Once you're up in it, think of dropping your ear to your bottom arm. And that's when we're like, you have it. It's it will make it look nicer and it will make it more energy efficient. Yes, Jessica. Yep. And then bring that second leg in. Try to find your square. Yes. Gorgeous, Jessica. That looks so good. Very nice. Yes, Allie. Really good. Bigger straddle, Valerie. Bigger. Big spread to the gods. Okay, think about the butt exercise we were doing. Once you're in it, open as wide as you can. Yeah, because especially when we start taking it to these dynamic things, if your legs are here and you start doing the kips, it's bringing you down. And bringing you down is in like into the pole, not cartwheeling down. So think every time you go into, whether it's an Aisha, a handspring, I mean, if you're in a straddle, exactly, think squeeze your bootay. And you can even actually, a good conditioning exercise, because you're comfortable holding them for a while, is get into it and try doing those little pulses. Think of like the same way we do on the ground, go into it and be like, okay, I'm gonna do like 3 pulses. Because eventually you wanna get to the point where you don't have to have someone tell you, or you don't have to think like, okay, don't forget to open my legs. Like you're just gonna get into it and you're gonna be like, bam, right away. Yeah, but little bigger straddle. Yes, Andrea, and then crunch your butt towards that top arm. Yes, I can't see your legs, but your shoulder stack looks so good, Andrea. Andrea, can your camera angle up just a little bit?
Yeah, I'll put it up to the next one.
Okay, no, like I said, I couldn't see your legs, but this alignment looks really good. How did that one feel?
Pretty good. I feel like my legs might not have been quite right.
That's it. Well, like I said, I couldn't see them, so. But getting this in alignment is, like, I always think of it as this is your primary, and then things trickle down from there. So you want this solid before you go on to the other thing. So if you had to choose between this and the legs, you want this. But no, it looked really good. Jen, drop your head, ear to arm. Yes, there you go. Stop watching your butt. It's not going to go anywhere without you. If it does, you have bigger problems.
My twisted grip,
Yeah.
so when I'm coming out of it, it's like stuck on my leg every time. Is there like a better exit or a better way to do it?
What do you mean stuck on your leg? Like your straddle catches the pole, you mean, or?
So I'll be an Aisha, but when I go to come out of it, like my natural way out of handsprings is to like hand me out, like hook the outside.
Oh, okay, yeah, like the Jasmine.
Yeah, I like.
So what about trying to iron X down out of it?
That's an option.
That would be a good one, right? Because then you're working your negative of your deadlift. Honestly, to me too, Mallory, I don't know about you, but twisted grip, when I hook the leg, it's funky on the wrist too, right? Mm-hmm. It has that moment where you're like, ugh, you gotta like pull your hand. Yeah. So I would say work on trying to do your iron X, which means like try to come down as, I mean, of course, sometimes if we're losing our balance, the leg hook is like, that's definitely a safe option, 100%. But think of like trying to keep, which you want that straddle as big as you can, and then just start tilting the hips. Eventually, as you drop lower, it's going to get harder to go slow, but think of trying to slow the descent. But that would be a good time to work on your iron X.
Okay, cool.
Diana, keep your butt closer to the pole, okay? Because the farther away your butt is from the pole, the heavier it's going to feel. Okay, so think about when you're starting to bring your legs down off the pole, you basically want your butt to be a knee's distance away from the pole here. Your butt was way out here, which means it's going to be much harder to control. Yep. So think of like your knees are just like almost in the position where they could touch the pole. SB, diamond the knees before you open the legs. Open the knees. Yes, there you go. That way your weight's already starting to find balance. So if your legs are very parallel and you start to just straighten them, it's going to make your balance feel like you're going to fall into the pole. Think diamond the knees first. So A, you've already got that glute engagement. It's going to help you balance. And then when you do take that same leg as top arm off, it's already kind of pointing the direction it needs to go. Nice, and your arms are a little bit close together. You're beastly strong, so you're able to pull it off. But it will be more energy efficient if either A, you bend your top arm more, and I know you sometimes have a hard time keeping that bicep engaged on that top arm. So it's one of those where either A, you got to really focus on that bicep engagement, or take your arm farther up.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, SB. Big diamond. Don't let your butt get quite so far away from the pole, SB. There you go. Push out of that bottom arm. Okay, so SB, your legs are actually dropping too low. Okay? So your diamond, okay, so go into it, pause a little bit longer with I kind of feel like it's like you're rushing to get your legs off, whether you realize it or not. Take more time. Hang on, I'm gonna lose my pants for this one. Take more time with your legs on the pole. When you're taking your legs off, you're sliding them down so much that it's making your weight kind of fall into the pole a little bit. So as you're here, you're kind of bringing your legs way down here, which makes the balance funky. Keep them high and diamond. Okay, but I don't want my knees to go too low. You're coming so low down here that it's like making your weight go into the pole. Does that make sense?
That's what I noticed is like, and this is my non-dominant side, and it's like how like, I'm like my legs feel funny. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that is what it is. So slide them down less, and keep your knees closer to the pole.
Closer, okay.
Yeah. Yes. Push out of your bottom arm, SB. Pull with your top arm. Your butt's too far away. Get tall out of your bottom arm. Tall, like the handstand. Okay, that was better initially. I think also if you video it and look at it, I think you'll see it too, because your legs start to drop and it starts to make your back round towards the pole. Your bottom arm also, I think also because you said it is your less dominant side, I can see when you're starting to slide your legs down, initially your arm's in a fantastic position, your bottom arm.
Yeah.
As you start to slide your legs down, your arm kind of does this, like, I'm not sure. Okay? So really think of, like, in the handstand exercise, part of the reason we do that, pushing out of that bottom arm the whole time. Because you want to have this line, yours is starting to kind of do this, and you're sinking into this shoulder. And of course, that combined with the legs dropping, I think, like I said, I think if you video and you see it, it'll help. Because as much as I'm like, your legs are too low and your this is there, I'm like, all these things, I think if you see it, it'll make more sense in your head too, of where it is. But yeah, your butt's coming a little farther away, really focus on that push out of that bottom arm.
The push.
Yeah.
I'll record myself too so I can see it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, because it's one of those, like, I can tell your butt's too far away. Be like, well, that could mean a lot of things. That could mean this much. That could mean this much. But yeah. And,
Okay.
yeah, and especially I find, especially when it's our less dominant side, we sometimes don't have the same proprioception, but sometimes to see ourselves help us kind of connect that a little bit. Yes, Mallory, that looked good. That was a nice big straddle. Very nice. It didn't look like your arm, was it touching? No, I was going to say, it didn't look like it was touching. All right, even out whatever you're working. What was that, Mallory?
That was a true grip.
I know I saw it, but it was still fantastic. It looked really good. I was like your straddle was nice and wide. Yeah, that looked really good. Okay, even out your sides. If you need to do one more, yes, that's it, SB. Push out of that shoulder, ear to your arm, crunch your butt towards your top arm, and just breathe. Don't rush to open your knees. There, that looked much better right there, SB. Yeah, and I think it could be on that side too, SB. You just need to hang out there and be like, because that time I saw this engaged the whole time versus the other time it was like, okay, I'm letting go.
Yeah, I was really focusing on that. So
Good.
I think, yeah, I'll practice like this, that.
Yeah, because you want to get to the point where that just is a reflex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, let's talk about poppy things. Nice, Jessica. That looks really good. Yes, Jen, ear to your arm, ear to your arm. Even more. Drop your head. Jen, every time, so this is I want you to think of every time you go into a handspring, Jen, shake your head no. Because right now your head kind of wants to like do this thing. And it's one of those where like, no, and we all do, like, trust me, I do, okay, in inverts, like, I know exactly where my butt is, and yet, like, I'll video a combo. Of course, now all of you are going to watch my combos and be like, yeah, I saw you didn't drop your head there. It's like a reflex, as much as, like, I'm not checking to see, but it's like an old habit that never, I catch myself when I'm, like, prepping for performances or things like that I tuck my chin when I go to invert to a leg hang, instead of just letting my head relax. And it's A, I'm exerting more energy and effort than I should be, and B, it breaks the line and doesn't look good. Okay, so it's one of those, like, it's not wrong, but, like, I don't know about all of you, I don't particularly feel like I need to improve my neck muscles. I mean, they're already pretty beefy as it is, but, and yet, you know. Okay, so let's talk about poppy things. I'm going to show you all a few variations. You can work on this in an elbow grip. You can work on this in a true grip, a twisted grip, a cup grip, any grip you want. And then I'm also going to give a floor version for those of you that are still working towards your handsprings, handstands, okay? So with this one, ideally to work on the poppies, you should already be able to do a pencil. And if you haven't worked on pencil, but you don't have to be. If you haven't done pencils already, that's okay. I'll kind of break down some of that stuff. So a pop out starts from your elbow and it pops out to a cup grip. With this, basically what you're trying to do is create a weightless moment, which is the concept in Chinese pole stuff. Okay, a lot of drops come from that principle. So it's a good principle to start to understand, regardless of what. It's one of those, like, once you start to feel the timing, you can find it in anything. Okay, so for an Aisha, if you're comfortable with an Aisha, because generally speaking, for most people, it's easier mentally to go from an elbow to pop to a cup grip. Going back in, honestly, is not any harder physically, but psychologically, for most people, they get here and they're like, I'm too far, how am I going to get there? But if you understand the concept of creating that weightless moment, it's not any harder, okay? So, from an Aisha, what it would look like. Oh, that was ugly. So, from your Aisha, you're just going to do pops, okay? It's not anything huge. You definitely want to be comfortable in your grip, whether it's a twisted, a cup, and anything, before you add that. Because especially, I would say Aisha probably is the scariest one of them for most people because they don't feel like they're holding. The tendency when people pop is to want to squeeze more, but it's more of the pop comes from your hips, okay? So a way to start feeling these, shoulder mount is a good way to work them. Even better, if you have never done any kind of dynamic thing, is to start these from the ground. Actually, I'm angled low enough. Is to start to feel this little weightless moment. You don't have to have your shoulder to the pole at all, okay? Is you're gonna go from a straddle, and think of, I don't know if any of you have ever watched Karate Kid and like Mr. Miyagi catching flies with a chopstick. Picture you're trying to catch chopstick with your toes, okay? And there's a moment there where like you feel your shoulders feeling lighter on the ground. It's just a millisecond, okay? And eventually, like in a shoulder mount, for example, if I start here, that's where pops up the pole come from, is you start going up the pole because you create that weightless moment, okay? So, depending on which level you are at, if these are new to you, like you've never done any kind of poppy, or you're working towards your handspring Aisha Iron X, start with that floor version. Whichever, you don't have to have your shoulder on the pole if you're on the floor version, so it's a very gentle way to start working on. The goal is just to start to feel that weightless moment, okay? Do like 3 to 5 on one side, and when I say one side, that just means whichever hand is high. Your head can actually be center of the pole because we're not actually touching. It's just 3 to 5 with one hand high, switch 3 to 5 with the other hand high, and or if you have a shoulder mount, do them on the pole, and or elbow grip, twisted grip, or cup grip. It's all the same, okay? And if they're new to you, just having movement in your handspring, they're tiny. It might be you do like a mental pop where you're like, did you see me flinch? That's okay, that's where it starts, okay? So pick whichever level you are at. Even more, Jessica, less control. Like right now, Jessica, I can see very calculated. You're like, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna come down. It's like a shoot, like pop your pussy to the pole. Yes, that was it. Exactly. Nicely done. Nice, Diana. Yes, that's it. And get your butt higher. So, Anne, before you shoot up, your starting position, your hips are really low here. Before you start to kip, you need your hips to be at least parallel, if not a little bit above. You're starting down here, which means you're trying to like fight gravity and then kip. So start a little higher in your shoulder mount before you add the kip. Yes, Andrea. And Andrea, if you feel like that you're totally fine on the stage, if you feel like you're coming off stage, you actually can do these. I don't know if you have space around the stage. You don't need the pole. You can actually lay down on the floor below and hold on to one of the legs of the stage if that feels better for you or for future reference. A couch even works for these, but like I said, you're totally fine there, Andrea. But if you do feel you're like, my butt is literally laying off the edge, like the goal is to not have your butt really resting on the ground long. But if you're like, it just feels weird on the stage, as we've had our discussions, like little fear of falling off the stage. So as long as you're comfortable with it, it's totally good. Just want to give you options. What was that, Jessica?
With the shoulder mount, when you're kicking on, are you switching your hand?
So eventually that is the next step. Yes. So actually starting to feel that weightless moment, start with, and you can do it with the ones on the ground. I don't know if any of you can. So initially, when I did the hops, I wasn't switching my hands. A good progression is you start to just let go with one hand, okay? So if you go here, think open, open. And just one. Like I did 2 that time, but it's just like, it's starting to just start to realize that we do have a millisecond there where we don't have to be gripping. Yeah, and you can start with that hand thing on the floor version where you're laying on your back too. Okay, so make sure you're evenly working both sides. Even if that means you're like, okay, I feel comfortable with my right shoulder mount in the air, but not my left one, do it from the ground. So Jen, when you shoot up into it, okay, think of giving yourself a little rebound into it. Right now, you're going here and I don't know how much of it is like just getting comfortable with your shoulder mount with it. And if it's still getting comfortable, that's fine. But just think of working towards, when you're doing the kip, your legs are going this way. For a fonji, for example, or eventually with that kamikaze, your legs need to either go in line with the pole or out this way. So you're staying in your straddle right here, which means as you kip, your weight is almost going back to the pole. So as much as you're trying to add a weightless moment, your legs are pulling you out of that weightless moment. So think of shooting your legs up towards the pole. And it can be slow motion initially. If you don't want to do it with a lot of momentum, like just get comfortable going from a straddle. And like if you're worried about ceiling, you can stay in the straddle. Just the difference is for you, your straddle is dipping lower instead of coming up. Like I have the same thing where I can't totally go to a pencil without kicking my ceiling, but I don't want my butt to come closer to the pole. Think of, the mantra, pop your pussy to the ceiling. Yes, that was it, Jen. Yes, there you go. So much better. Harder, right? Because now your butt had that moment where you're like, whoa, it's coming back down. But yeah, that was the right idea. Really good. Nice, and yep, so and do a few controlled. Eventually the goal is to have it be less controlled as in strength and more with momentum. I know most things I'm always telling everyone less momentum, but this is one it is momentum. Mallory, how do you feel with these?
I feel good, but still like the weight distribution gets weird when I gravity.
100%. And that's why starting with these kips are really good. I don't know how many times I've had students back in the days when we actually could physically spot students, where they come to me and be like, I want to work on my pop outs. And I'm like, okay, awesome. How's your Aisha? I can hold it sometimes. I'm like, you can feel there's already that weight difference there. And it's like, it definitely adds another level to your Aisha or your elbow grip, your hand, when you've got this poppy motion. So just starting to add these little kips is a good way to start to feel, okay, can I control it when it's in a dynamic movement? Because if you're leaning to one side, especially mentally, when people start to go into a pop out, they quite often mentally bail out before they physically do. Before they even start, they're like, I'm gonna die, which means they're already leaning towards their exit, which means they pop and you come down your feet usually. So it's not really that big of a deal usually. But yeah, so you can feel how much you have to compensate for that when you pop. Okay, how's everyone feeling with these? Andrea?
Yeah, I was wondering, so for the shoulder mount,
Yeah.
I want to try just the tipping, but keep my hands on.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much harder is that compared to on the ground?
Well, are you comfortable with your shoulder mount, Andrea?
Yeah, pretty comfortable.
Okay, I would just say if you're kipping for the first time, even if you might do shoulder mounts usually with a shirt, take the shirt off so you have skin. Only because kind of like what Mallory was saying is the weight transfer does change, whether you're with the shoulder mount or with the Aisha. But just try. So here's the thing with the shoulder mount one, especially if you're doing it from the ground. Worst case, I don't know if you saw when Jen did it a minute ago. Sorry, Jen, I'm not picking on you, Jen. I'm just as an example. Jen's first one, her legs when she popped were way back here, which meant if she popped, she was almost going to slide down. Her second one, when I told her to think of shooting her hips away, her butt, there was a moment, Jen, where, Jen is crazy strong, but her butt kind of came down. If you're out here, she kind of went here and wanted to come back down. Worst thing, you're going to come here. So like I said, think of shooting your hips that direction. Worst case, you're going to come to here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, when I did go a little further the other way that you told me to, did I go too far? Or is
No.
it just a strength thing?
Yeah, it's a strength and a timing thing. So with anything that, yes, Mallory, that looks really good. With any of these that are the popping things, okay, much like Phoenix we've talked about before, if your timing is right, it doesn't take as much strength. It's also knowing where your butt is. I don't know if you heard me talking to Ann. Ann also, much like you, Jen, is crazy strong. I think for both of you, if anything, I sometimes have to remind both of you, like, stop being so strong and like find the technique. Because you both like, and I have that in things sometimes too. It's like we can get away with cheating things, which in the beginning it makes our lives easier, but then sometimes you want to go to the next move and you're like, oh, I've been muscling this the entire time. So with the timing, Anne, when she went into it at first, is making sure that you're getting the timing of the kip and using the momentum with it. If your timing is off, you have to be that much stronger. So it's just a balance thing. So many things I'm always telling you all to like not use momentum, and I want you to find the muscle engagement. This is one of those that you want the timing. When Anne was doing it first, she was dropping her butt super low. Like I said, Anne's very strong. Like for most people, if their butt dropped that low, they wouldn't be able to get it back up. If you let your butt drop below parallel before you go into the kip, your butt's going to feel like a ton of bricks. So that's part of the reason why you came down. It's starting to feel, okay, when I kip, I want to think of stopping here, not here. If I think of stopping here, by the time my brain says, hey, you should stop, and my butt, like muscles, everything, it's here. Does that make sense? So it's just like, okay, when we see a stop sign, we don't like wait to touch the brakes until we get to the stop sign line. We start stopping before. So it's just starting to know like, okay, I want to stop here, which means I'm going to start slowing down here. If you slow down too soon, it takes away from the momentum. If you slow down too late, suddenly your butt feels really heavy, which is kind of what happened with you on that one too. So yes, it is a strength thing, but not in a bad way. I'd rather you find the timing of it than try to like beast it out and use the strength part. Okay, make sure you're evenly working both sides on these. Like I said, you can do them and try in any grip. And if these here's another thing too. Not everyone likes dynamic stuff. Okay, there are some people that love the poppy stuff like all day long, and there are some people like, I just don't like poppy. I want flowy stuff. I want controlled stuff. I would say I have a mix of SV that looks really good. So if you are not a poppy person, if you're like, you know what, this is just not my jam, like I have zero interest in doing, work on going from the straddle to the pencil or wavy legs. Okay, because like I said, one of the awesome things about pole is like all different styles, right? I think I mentioned this in this class before. It's been a while. When I first started like traveling and teaching pole, I was determined that like, well, I have to have a fonji. Like if you want to be anyone in the pole community, you have to do a fonji. Learn how to do a fonji. I worked with the Chinese pole coach for years. Got my fonji, and like every couple months I would go back and do my fonji just to make sure it was still there. And it literally took me years before I could finally admit and be like, hello, my name is Elizabeth, and I don't like fonjis. And I think like quite often people, like you get in the pole community of like, you just say you don't like it because you can't do it. I'm like, I have no problem doing it. I just didn't like it. They weren't my favorite. Like pop outs I loved all day long. Kamikaze, great. But like, so not every move, like you don't have to love every move. Okay. So even if it's like, okay, these are the poppy things, and you're like, okay, that was cool, but not my thing. If you like more of the control that like, so work that pencil one. Much like Mallory was saying of like finding the balance. The balance is the same, like working on being able to go from a straddle to a pencil, whether you're in a handspring or a shoulder mount or wavy legs. Okay, so you can work on slow and controlled movements, or you can work on pops. Okay, and they're both. The great thing is both are great conditioning, both are different styles, and both are legitimately awesome. So. You can do both, you can pick one, whatever. Jen, where's your head? Yes! I had a student that she finally, because she had a similar thing with her head, like kicking up in her handspring. I would point to the pole and be like, look right here. And if she looked, she was totally fine. She came into class one day with a little packet of smiley face stickers. She was like, look, I brought my own little target. And she put it on the pole. Because she had the same thing. Yeah, I'm like, she just had to be like, if I said look, she was like, oh, totally good. If I didn't say look, her head was like all over the place. Diana, I would say don't rush to open your legs. So take your time on it. Like open one leg and give your brain time to be like, okay, I got this. And then slowly, like so often we're like, I gotta hurry up and open before I fall out of it. Better to like open slowly, give your brain time to be like, little to the left, little to the right. Okay, we're good. Now to the next step. All right, when you are done with poppy things, feel free to continue, even amount, whichever. We're gonna switch up to bands. Yes, and that was it. That was so good. Those are rough, huh, Anne? They're no joke. They're one of those where I'm like, so not an efficient way to climb the pole. I mean, they're awesome, but so not efficient. Plus, for all of us with our short ceilings, there's a little part of us that we're popping, but we're also like sort of half-ass popping because we also don't want to kick the ceiling. So yeah, I feel ya. Andrea, did you tie up from the regular shoulder mount?
I did, yeah.
How was it?
Yeah, I'm really glad I tried it because I was like kind of like scared. Like it almost felt like a mental block. And
Yeah.
I felt like really safe.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
I didn't like that great, but
no, but I would much rather you start with like go a little bit into it and be like, okay, I felt comfortable with that, and like ease into it. Because yeah, I mean, our mental how comfortable we are with something is huge. That's why I always tell people, like, quite often there are things where I'm like, I have a student, I know they can do it physically, but I never underestimate the power of the freak out. Like that's, like I said, that's honestly part of the reason why I don't do pop outs anymore, is there's in the back of my head, what if this is the time that my elbow comes completely out and then I have to have it surgically put back in? Like it's one of those, like, strength-wise, yes, but there's that percentage chance that my elbow might not. So, and if you have even a little bit in your head of like that's when injuries happen. So much better to like go to the edge, feel comfortable on the edge, and then like maybe the next day you put a foot over the edge. Right. So awesome. Okay, if you have bands, let's go ahead and transition to some band stuff on the pole for this last little bit of time because time has flown by. Those of you that have pop out things on your radar for in the future, these exercises are a great way to start working towards them. Okay, so work on them in all the grips. Your Aisha, your elbow. If you want to be able to do the cup to the true, work on your pop outs in both those, because like you could feel, Mallory, is that part where it's uneven, especially on the pop out to the cup. That bicep engagement is really important, because for a lot of people when they do the pop out, they start in their elbow, they pop to their cup, and their bicep is not moving as fast as everything else, and they go too far out, their arms are too close together, and their butt ends up really far out. So practice your pops in your cup grip, usually with your arm more bent than you would normally maybe for your cup grip ones. Okay, so with the band, if you have a band, great. If you don't have a band, you're gonna do all the same exercises. Start with your floats. If your floats feel good, add a crunch, 3 on each side. Doesn't matter if you already have a deadlift. If those felt good, then you're taking it working on your deadlifts. This can be in a cup, it can be in a twisted, either way. If you have tighter shoulders and you don't like the traditional turned out way, you can go with either a twisted or a cup in a piped up deadlift. Okay, so you can pick and choose. Like I said, since we're kind of limited on time here for this last little bit, you can pick whichever form of deadlift. Just make sure you're alternating sides. And it could be maybe you prefer one particular way on one side, one particular way on the other. I know there's some of you that prefer twisted on one side and cup on another. That's totally fine, as long as you are working some form of handspring on the other side. Okay, so if you're doing the cup or the twisted with the traditional chest out way, the band is going to go under your top knee or your outside knee. Okay, so similar to what we did before, start with facing the pole, rotate away, push with that bottom arm. Great. If you get a float, if the float is good, add a little crunch. If the crunch is good, you can take it to a deadlift. Oops. Someone waiting to get in. Oh. Okay, so alternate sides. You don't have to alternate every time. Just don't do more than like 3 to 5 on one side before you take it to the other side. Okay? And if you don't have a band, you're working the exact same thing. Float, 3 to 5 each side. If the float feels good, try adding a crunch. And trust me, those crunches are no joke. The crunch is one of those where you're like, oh my gosh, I was like contracting every muscle in my body and I think I raised a millimeter. That's normal. Hello, Turquoise Flourish. How are you? Are you awake?
What?
I said, are you awake? It's wee hours of the morning there, right?
I said like normally 7 to 4 in the morning anyway, so.
Oh my goodness.
I was already working in for like 3 hours.
Oh, good.
So
Awesome.
I'm ready.
Good.
I'm ready.
Okay, well, we're on band stuff. We've only got about 10 more minutes or a little bit less than that left, so feel free to jump on in on the bands. Allie, what's that?
Hold on. It's at 2 o'clock it starts.
No, it started at, well, technically 6 p.m. our time.
It's 2 p.m.
I don't know. Last time you were here at the right time, but yeah, we only have about 5-10 minutes left. Allie, move your hands up higher when you go into the float. So remember when you're...
No, I thought it was 2
That's okay.
a.m. here.
That's okay. And you'll get the video recap for anything that you missed. We worked on poppy exercises. And you'll get, like I said, when I email out the video, you'll get those. Oh, time changed. Oh, yes. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, actually, there was a time change. I forgot about that. I actually should have put that in the email, too. So, yeah, there was a time change.
So I missed my class?
You missed most of it. Yes, I'm sorry. But, yes, like I said, you're going to get an email of the recap. So you'll get to see the stuff that you missed.
I know, and I just really want to, spend time.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know. But no, go ahead and grab your bands if you have some. If not, we're working on the float. You can do it without the band or without. So start with the float.
Well, I have difficulty with the float anyway.
Good. Perfect. Then perfect time to work with. Allie, don't lift your inside leg. Focus on, remember, think of chest bumping the ceiling.
I'm so hungry. Can't believe I missed it.
Mallory, your top butt cheek. So the leg that's in the band, think about engaging that butt cheek. It's going to pull your leg out. It's going to open your hips, and then the float goes. So first thing, like arms get in position, the first thing that starts to move is that knee goes out, engaging your butt. All about the booty. But, yes, that was it. That was it. Because, yeah, if that knee starts to fall in, your float comes away. Yes. Yes, Jessica, same thing as I was just telling Mallory, engage the butt cheek of that top leg even a little bit more. It looks good here, but the leg that's in the band, think of trying to turn it out even more.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Okay, so I'll try it again, see if it works this time.
Yes, Jessica. Nice, Diana. Yes, turquoise, that looks awesome. Keep rotating your chest up. That looks so good. Yeah. That looked beautiful. That looked even better than last week. Really good.
I got fast.
Good. No, it looks really good.
I'll try the other side.
Yes, SB. That looked really good on the shoulders. Okay, so Ann, just go through all your deadlifts. If you can, try to steam, like after you've done the crunches into the deadlifts, Ann, try going deadlift to Iron X, back to float, and see if you can go back into the deadlift. Yes, that's it. Nice. So good. Nicely done. Jessica, push away even a little more with that bottom shoulder. Remember, you want to think about creating as much distance. Yes, there you go. That's it. Really good.
Better than last week.
Turquoise, watch your top arm. You might want to move it a little bit higher. Your arms even a little farther apart. Just a little bit.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
Lower or higher?
Higher. Yep. There you go. Yes, it'll make the deadlift easier. So the wider your arms are, that means that you have a wider base of support. It'll make your deadlift easier.
It's just a weird thing. Genetic weird.
Yes, Diana. Diana, that looks so good. Allie, where you at? Allie, did you have a question?
Just resting.
Oh, good. Okay, that's totally legit. How are they feeling, Allie?
Hard.
Well, that's normal.
I need to start adding them into my normal routine, I think.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, there are so many things that we all like. I show this in my routine. I'm like, there's just not enough hours in the day to do all the things. But still, I like doing these as a good, like a shoulder warm up. Just do a few reps. Like, not a ton, but SB says they're legit yes, they are. Totally. Right? I feel ya. Yes, turquoise. That looks so good.
I'm making up for the last hour.
Diana, how are you feeling with these? Diana, how are you feeling with these? Good? Good, okay. Yes, Andrea, that rotation looks really good. And then just think of chest, like at the top, at that part, Andrea, think of just doing like 3 to 5 little reps. Like think of lifting your chest to the sky, which is that push and that pull, and then relax a little bit. And then lift your chest to the sky. Yep. Yeah, and that part getting to the float, Andrea, it's literally one of those where like, it feels like an imaginary exercise for a long time, and then suddenly one day you'll be like, oh my gosh, I think I could slip a piece of paper under my feet. They are not easy. Okay, so alternating sides, like I said, no more than 3 to 5 on each side. If you want to take up to the pike up ones, the pike up ones you can do as a little hop. The band is going to go all the way up. Okay, and for this one, you can have your legs, or your arms low. It can be a true grip, it can be a twisted grip, or it can be a cup grip. You can pick either one. Most people don't feel so comfortable with this one with cup. But you're gonna tuck your chin. Think of, there's a little window right here, and you wanna be looking through that window. You're gonna tuck your chin and hop, and your goal is to not have your butt go to the pole. Your goal is to get your thigh to go to the pole, to here. Just do a tuck, and then try to control it back down, okay? And like I said, initially on those, sometimes it's hard to find the muscle engagement. You can do it as a little hop. And for these, the difference with these, with the pike up version, the pole stays to your side when we go to that tuck. You don't turn to have your chest face the pole the way you would with a traditional handspring. Okay? So basically, in this deadlift part we're working on. Basically, once you got the deadlift, then it turns. But you want to stay with the pole to your arm.
You just kind of go like this here.
Think of dropping your head down, your arms as low so that your chest is about, or I'm sorry, your butt is it can be twisted or cup or true, either one.
So like this?
And then, no, but right now, but remember what I said though, Turquoise, you want your hips right next to the pole. So you're to the side of the pole. I'm standing right next to the pole, okay? And then from there, my butt, like my leg is touching the pole. I'm gonna drop back and I want my shoulder in line with the pole. It's not leaning against the pole, it's to the side. Like I feel the pole gently brushing my deltoid, my shoulder right here.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll spend some more time on the pike up ones next week, also, because this week we kind of went over some of the dynamic things, but we'll definitely, Jen, tuck your chin.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jen, try not to let your butt, that's it, Turquoise, tuck your chin though, Turquoise. Tuck your chin, Turquoise. More, there you go, and instead of letting that leg go over your head, you want to go into a tuck. But yeah, Jen, keep the chin tucked a little bit more, and then, try to keep your hips closer to your arm, Jen. The tendency, especially when we learn the more traditional deadlift first, is to want to open. You want to stay right, like think of as if you're doing these in a hallway and you're going to stay right there in that lane. So the hips are not going to come away from the pole on this one. At least not at this point. Eventually they do.
Sorry.
No, but that was the right idea with your hips right next to the pole though, Turquoise. Yes, Jen. Yeah, see, Jen, how the yes, there you go. That time your hips came away, Jen, then you brought them back in. That was really good. All right, lovelies, I'm going to have to wrap it up because I have to go into flex class. Please make sure you even sides out. Okay, so I know we did super short on this deadlift part at the very end, but if you've done a bunch on one side, do some on the other side, even if they're not quite as glorious and fabulous. Still try to evenly work them. Next week, I'll try to spend some more time on that pike up version, but that being said, as usual, I'll ask you all at the beginning of class if you have anything specific that you want to work on, because this week we spent a little bit of time on those dynamic pop things. Those of you that are focusing on those pops too, feel free to remind me at the next class in case I forget, and I'll add in, those for some extra exercises for you to add in with the conditioning, because they are one where like, just doing them once is not going to be like, oh, I magically have a pop out. I tried it once and it was there. Like, just like anything else, this shit's hard, right? It just takes a while to work up to it. All right, I will send you all out video later. Sorry to rush you all off right now, but going to do flex right now. We're working on back bending if anybody wants to, go from like beastly mode to like bendy mode. For next week, like I said, if you have any requests, things you want to work on, let me know, and hopefully I will see you all again next Monday. Bye. Have a good rest of your night.